Everton Football Club have had a miserable season in the Premier League, sacking Frank Lampard and only just avoiding relegation. Rewind just a few years though and they had managerial icon Carlo Ancelotti at the helm, calling on players like Colombian legend James Rodriguez and Brazil's current number 9 Richarlison. And in their hour of need, Ancelotti is back, committing to a 5-year project to restore some pride back into this huge football club and maybe win a trophy along the way. Now looking at Everton's starting 11, it's not really hard to see why they've been in a relegation battle all season. With the exception of goalkeeper Jordan Pickford, every single player in the starting 11 and on the bench is rated only in the 70s. And with Ancelotti only given £50 million to completely revamp the entire squad, his first task as Everton manager is going to be to try and get rid of some of the so-called dead wood from the club in order to raise some funds. Now with Hugo Lloris looking like he's on his way out of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, it's no surprise to see them come in for an offer for our best player in Jordan Pickford for £9.4 million plus Oliver Skip. But with Ancelotti desperate to keep hold of our best player, he's going to go ahead and reject that offer, and on top of that he's going to invite both Jordan and his agent into his office to try and start negotiations on a new contract. And so with Jordan only wanting a 1-year contract extension and of course very happy to accept a nice little salary bump on top, Ancelotti makes his first big move of the summer, tying down the future of our best player. Now Seamus Coleman, the club captain, club leader and club legend, used to be considered one of the best right backs in the Premier League. However, with both age and injuries taking their toll on the 33-year-old Irishman, with only 12 months left remaining on his contract, Ancelotti has to make a big decision over this man's future. But with FC Braga coming in with a bid of £2.6 million for him, we say goodbye to Seamus Coleman as after 14 years of service, he finally departs the club. Moving from one big player to another who's been here for over 8 years, Mason Holgate agrees a move to Salernitana for £7 million to make him the second Everton player to leave the club this summer. And Ancelotti is continuing his ruthless streak, this time setting his target to an academy graduate with over 150 appearances for the club. Tom Davies departs for £4.9 million to Stade Bretois. Now due to being back up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Neal Maupay wasn't exactly on the transfer hit list when Carlo Ancelotti rejoined the club, but after using that Italian charm to renegotiate an offer from Brentford, he manages to get £6.6 million from him, and Neal Maupay will again depart the club. Michael Keane is another one that Carlo Ancelotti wasn't exactly too keen to say goodbye to initially, but the allure of playing abroad and the opportunity to play Champions League football next season was too much for Michael Keane to resist, and after managing to squeeze an offer of £10.2 million out of them, Michael Keane departs to Porto. The departures continue as centre-back Yerry Mina also leaves the club for £7 million to West Ham United, and the final major name to depart the club this summer will be the former Spurs, Newcastle and Crystal Palace man, as the 30-year-old Andros Townsend also leaves to FC Braga for £4.1 million. Now that mass exodus from the club has left Carlo with £91 million to try and improve the squad, but with some big name players leaving, it has left us with some gaping holes across the starting 11 and on the bench as well. However, the first big tactical decision that Carlo's going to make is to switch this defensive 4-1-4-1 formation into a more attack-focused 4-2-3-1 formation to give the Evertonians the free-flowing football that they crave. However, with central defensive midfielder Onana being put into the hole behind the striker due to a lack of players in that cam position available to the club, that is going to be the first position that Carlo Ancelotti is going to target as we start to look for some incoming transfers. Now, as important as it is for us to stay in the division, it's equally as important to try and weaken some of our rivals that we're going to be competing against. And with Ancelotti's first signing, we are going to be doing just that, as American Brandon Aronson joins the club from Leeds United Football Club in a deal for £12.9 million. He completes a board objective for us to sign a crucial first-team midfielder, and at 21 years of age, with him showing great potential, Ancelotti is convinced that he's going to be a big player for us for the foreseeable future. Now, with 2 big-name centre-backs departing the club this summer, it's important that we replace them with at least one other player. And with plenty other Champions League clubs sniffing around for his signature, the pull of Ancelotti has clearly worked in our favour this time round, as we welcome a defensive powerhouse that is on every club's lips at the moment. Evan Ndika joins the club for £33.6 million. After a bit of a struggle with injury over the past few seasons, Tariq Lamptey has found himself out of the Brighton team and struggling to get back into the starting 11. But Carlo Ancelotti is convinced that there is still time for the former Chelsea Academy graduate to fulfil the undoubted potential he once showed, and that is why, after agreeing a £10 million fee with Brighton, he becomes our third signing of the summer and the main man to fill the boots of Seamus Coleman. With the 76 rated Alex Iwobi being the only right midfielder at the club, it's time that we look to bring someone in to give him some competition. And with Carlo using his extensive experience, knowledge and network to scout out young Ecuadorian Gonzalo Plata, we agree a deal with Valladolid for £25.5 million for the young man. The left-footed 77 rated man offers us something that we just don't have in the squad at the moment. Incredible pace, decent technical stats, and an unrivaled flair and technical ability. He could well be the signing of the season. And with only £766,000 left to spend, he will be Carlo Ancelotti's final signing of the first season. And with Idrissa Gueye being named as the new club captain, the starting 11 looking better and more attacking than the one he inherited, and the board expecting us to reach the round of 16 in the FA Cup and mid-table in the Premier League, it's time for Carlo Ancelotti to start his first season in his second reign at the club. And with the club reaching the round of 16 in the FA Cup being unfortunately knocked out by Manchester United 3-1 and finishing a very respectable 9th place in the Premier League, I think the board, the Evertonians, and Carlo Ancelotti himself have to be very happy about how the season's gone. Two of Carlo's new signings in Evan Ndika and Ecuadorian Gonzalo Plata have been the two highest growing players in the team, with the latter having a tremendous campaign contributing 11 goals and 6 assists in his debut season at the club. Striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a fairly decent season as well, with 13 goals and 1 assist, but it's left winger Demarai Gray who has completely stolen the show. 18 goals and 8 assists in 46 appearances. What a season for the young Englishman. However, with us finishing with a -2 goal difference in the Premier League, and still with plenty of improvements to be made to our starting 11, there's still a lot of work for Carlo Ancelotti to do heading into season 2. With the new season upon us and with £56 million in the transfer budget for Carlo to spend, there's some serious holes in the team that need fixing if we want to be competitive again this season. Now, with Neil Maupay departing the club last season, it left Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the only striker remaining at the club. However, with 23-year-old Italian Moise Kean returning from his loan spell from Juventus, at 81 rated, he instantly becomes the best striker at the club. Now, whilst he has caused some problems for Everton in the past, with Carlo Ancelotti, the man who brought him to the club, now back in charge, he is confident that he can get the best out of this potential superstar Italian Moise Kean. And so with that in mind, he will be staying at the club for at least one more season. Now, with central attacking midfield being another position in which we only have one player at the club who can play there in Brandon Aronson, you would think it would be important for Carlo Ancelotti to try and bring in some competition. However, with former Tottenham man Dele Alli returning from his loan spell from Turkey, with Carlo Ancelotti convinced that he can get this former wonder kid to get his career back on track and to get the best out of him, just like Moise Kean, he will remain at the club for this season. Now, current club captain Idrissa Gueye was a big figure last season in our mid-table push. However, with only 12 months left on his contract and at 33 years of age and 75 rated, his performances are only going to decline. And so central midfield is one position that Carlo is definitely going to look to improve. And so with that in mind, he's decided to go back to his Italian roots and raid Hellas Verona for a 22-year-old, 6'1", towering central midfielder who can attack, defend, play box to box. It's a big hello to a £27.9 million Serbian in Ivan Ilic. And with German club Fribourg coming in with a £3.5 million for Idrissa Gueye, the man who he is replacing, Everton Football Club lose another club captain. And with him being our best player and England's #1, there can be no better pick than Jordan Pickford to pick up the captain's reign and to hopefully lead Everton Football Club into a brighter future. However, in spite of having an 84 rated Pickford and Evan Ndika at the back, we still managed to concede 56 goals in the Premier League last season, which goes to show that perhaps there is a weak link in our back line. And with a 30-year-old James Tarkowski only rated 79, perhaps it is time to try and look for a replacement for him. And with the 6'3", 23-year-old towering Josip Sutalu, 7 years his younger, we welcome our second signing of the summer for £28.2 million. Now, due to the mass exodus of players at the start of season 1, it's left us with another player in Vitaly Mikalenko being the only man, this time, who can play at left back. And with Carlo Ancelotti keen to make just one more signing before the season starts, he's identified the now 24-year-old Spanish left back in Fran Garcia as the man to come in and compete with him. £23.9 million later, we have our final signing of the summer. And with absolutely everything squeezed out of the budget in season 2, and the starting 11 looking stronger than it ever has in this rebuild, it's time to see if Carlo can achieve the board objective of Europa League qualification this season. Midway through the season though, and things are looking reasonably on track, 7th place in the Premier League table with 21 games played, and only 3 points away from 5th place Manchester City. And in the Carabao Cup, it's even better news as we've qualified for the semi-final in a winnable tie against Watford. However, there is some serious unrest at the club as with new signing Fran Garcia coming in the starting 11, Vitaly Mikalenko is absolutely furious, and due to his lack of game time, he submitted a transfer request. And he's not the only one as Demarai Gray continues his fine vein of form. Dwight McNeil has now also come in with a transfer request as well. However, with the overall squad morale still seeming to be happy, Carlo Ancelotti's got to hope that he can keep this squad together in order to achieve something great this season. However, as he tries to renegotiate a contract with his fellow countryman Moise Kean to keep him at the club for the foreseeable future, he's hit with another roadblock, as his wage demands are just too much for the club, and he refuses to sign a new contract, meaning that with only 6 months left on his deal, he could well go for a free at the end of the season. Not good news for an 83 rated striker who's chipped in with 8 goals and 1 assist in the first half of the season. And to make matters worse, after managing to get past Watford in the Carabao Cup semi-final, he is greeted with more bad news as Everton lose out on penalties 4-3 to Manchester United. However, with the club seemingly proving to Moise Kean that they are going in the right direction, he does agree to sign a new 3-year deal to keep him at the club for the foreseeable future. And with us managing to secure a 6th place finish in the Premier League table, things do really look like they are on the up in this Everton rebuild. However, despite Manchester City winning the FA Cup and finishing in a Champions League space, in typical FIFA logic, it hasn't seemed to recognise that should qualify Everton for a Europa League spot next season. And with that, it means that the board's popularity rating of Carlo has now gone down to a 69 week rating. Fortunately enough though, he will have at least one more season to try and right the ship. Demarai Gray continues to steal the headlines with 20 goals and 7 assists in all appearances this season, but it's the 24-year-old Moise Kean who's now established himself as our strongest player with an 85 rating and 19 goals in all competitions. Gonzalo Plata has had another sensational season, 17 goals, 14 assists. What an outstanding season, and now he's up to 84. And whilst the former Leeds man Brendan Aronson hasn't exactly had the growth that Carlo Ancelotti would have expected, he still had a stellar campaign with 10 goals and 12 assists. To everyone's surprise, Dele Alli seems to have come back into form in the Premier League with 8 assists. To everyone's surprise, Carlo has managed to get the career of Dele Alli back on track with 8 goals and 2 assists to his name this season. However, with him only having 2 months left to run on his contract and him still only rated at 76 at 28 years of age, a big decision has to be made about his future heading into season 3. And so as the Everton fans become excited as to what Carlo Ancelotti can achieve in his 3rd season back at the club, but the board only giving him £64 million to spend this season, he's decided to bite the bullet and potentially try to re-sign Dele Alli. But with the former Spurs midfielder refusing to accept the same salary that he was on this season, it looks like we are going to be saying goodbye to Dele Alli. And along with him, it will be the 2 other players who demanded transfer requests at the back end of last season, the first of which being Vitaly Mykolenko as he departs to Atalanta for 18.6 million, and Dwight McNeil also leaves the club to Spurs for 19.4. And with those 2 departures now giving Carlo £96 million to spend, but leaving some gaping holes across the rest of our squad, it's time to get to work. And central attacking midfield is where we're going to start. Now, youngster Angel Gomez initially failed to make the grade at Manchester United and ended up leaving the club to go to foreign shores on a free transfer. But since moving across to foreign shores and making a name for himself in a different country, he's ready for a return back to English football to test his powers in the Premier League. We say hello to our first signing of the summer. Now, from central attacking midfield, we move over to the left-hand side of midfield, with Demarai Gray being the only man who can now play on that side. And with Carlo Ancelotti keen to inject even more youth into the squad, it's time to welcome a 21-year-old Argentinian who has pace and trickery in abundance. Alan Velasco joins from FC Dallas for £22.3 million. Left-back Fran Garcia had a fantastic debut season at the club last year, but with Mykolenko departing, it of course leaves him as the only left back at the club. And so enter a young Italian, a former Empoli man now plying his trade on FIFA with Mallorca. Fabiano Parisi joins the club for £34.1 million. And whilst all those 3 signings have been absolutely crucial, they have left quite a significant dent in the remainder of our transfer budget. So that means it's time to try and sell off some of our existing players. And a £14.4 million bid for a 31-year-old James Tarkowski from Juventus is too good to turn down. And so he becomes the first man to depart the club in this summer transfer window. And after accepting a £9.6 million offer from Valencia for Alex Iwobi, the right midfielder becomes the second man to leave Everton. However, with those 2 departures only leaving us with £18 million in the budget, and ideally still a couple of transfers still yet to be made, we're going to be asking our scouts to do something special if we want to try and improve this squad for the remainder of the window. Now, with the 31-year-old Abdoulaye Doucouré only rated 78 and his contract expiring in the next 12 months, it's possibly an area of the team that we want to try and improve. But with a dwindling transfer budget, Carlo Carlo's going to have to do some serious wheeling and dealing if he wants to get any deal across the line. Now, in our quest to try and get European football this season, it's imperative that we bring in some players with European experience. And with experience playing for two of the biggest clubs in both French and German football, Corentin Tolisso joins Everton Football Club in a £6 million swap deal with Abdoulaye Doucouré. And so, with 4 new signings through the door this summer, the starting 11 looking in the best shape it's ever been, and the overall squad trimmed down and motivated to achieve European football this season, the fans are expecting some success. The board are expecting some success both in the Premier League and the FA Cup. It's time for Carlo Ancelotti to put all that experience to good use. And in even better news as we fast forward to the midway point of the season, it turns out there's a typical FIFA glitch and we have in fact qualified for the Europa League. And not only that, we've won our first 6 games in our group stage, flying past into the knockout rounds. And not just that, not only are we in the top 4, but we are in 2nd place in the Premier League, trying to hunt down Manchester City. What a first half of the season it's been for Everton Football Club. No surprise to see a now 87 rated Moise Kean topping the goal scoring charts with 19 in 26 appearances, and Gonzalo Plata proving what an outstanding signing he's been, 85 rated, 16 goals, 10 assists. But with not enough money to realistically improve the first 11, Ancelotti's just got to hope that morale stays high and this team can reach the levels that are expected of them. But as we get to the end of March, it's bad news as we're knocked out of the round of 16 by Inter Milan in the Europa League. And with just 9 games remaining in the Premier League, we're frantically looking behind our shoulders to Liverpool and Manchester United. But with just 2 months remaining on the calendar and an FA Cup semi-final against QPR to look forward to, we still have an opportunity of our first chance of silverware. And after beating Chelsea 2-1 in the final, Carlo Ancelotti has done it. He has brought FA Cup success back to Goodison Park for the first time since 1995. And whilst we may have slipped out of 4th place in the table, he's also done the unthinkable, and Everton Football Club have qualified for the Champions League. 2 of his new signings have proved absolutely inspired. Englishman Angel Gomez, on his return to English football, chips in with 22 goals and 9 assists in his debut season at the club. And Argentinian wonder kid Alan Velasco has got 21 goals and 7 assists and has brought his rating up by 5 to 85 overall. The starting 11 is looking sensational. Carlo Ancelotti is riding a wave of momentum. Who knows what he can achieve heading into season 4. It's a new dawn at Everton Football Club as we embark on a European tour this season. And with European football comes a European-sized budget with £144 million for Carlo Ancelotti to spend. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been an ever-present in this Everton squad since the very beginning of this rebuild. But at 28 years of age, now only rated 80, and with Moise Kean taking his place in the starting 11, Ancelotti thinks that now is the time to say goodbye to the Englishman. And after managing to negotiate a deal with Bayern Leverkusen for a fee of £26.3 million, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's time at the club is finally up. However, with Ancelotti knowing how much of a fan favourite he was with the Evertonians, and with him keen to keep morale at an all-time high heading into the new season, he's decided to bring back an even bigger fan favourite to replace him. Richarlison left the football club in real life for an eye-watering £60 million to Spurs, and now in FIFA, having moved on from Spurs to Bayern Munich, he is desperate for a return back to the Premier League, and it's a return that Carlo Ancelotti is happy to grant. Richarlison rejoins Everton Football Club for £47.8 million, with Ben Godfrey being the next Englishman to be leaving the football club, having secured a £10 million move to Real Betis. It leaves us with just Josip Sutalu and Evan Ndika as the only 2 remaining centre-backs at the club, and with him wanting to make a massive stab at European glory this season, he's decided to go big and absolutely smash Everton's transfer record for a former Chelsea Academy graduate, another player who is desperate for a return to the Premier League, having made a name for himself in AC Milan. Fikayo Tomori joins Everton Football Club for £88.9 million, with youngster James Garner securing a move away from the club to Sporting Lisbon for £9.5 million, and an 83 rated Ivan Ilic being the highest rated central midfielder at the club. With £40 million left in the transfer budget, it's an area of the team Carlo Ancelotti feels like we can improve. And with Carlo looking to sprinkle a little bit more experience into the spine of the squad, he's agreed a £32.2 million deal for the 28-year-old, 84 rated experienced German Konrad Laimer. And so with the starting 11 looking sensational and the bench looking in pretty decent shape as well, and with Carlo spending almost the entirety of the European budget, the board are desperate to see a return on their investment. They want Ancelotti to do what no other Everton manager has been able to do in the past, and that is to win the Premier League and perform a domestic double by winning the FA Cup as well. well. And in our first season back in the competition, they want Carlo to lean on all that European experience and to reach the final of the Champions League. And whilst he is one of the most decorated managers in all of football history, if Carlo Ancelotti is able to do this, surely this will go down as his biggest achievement yet. And as we get to the midway point of the season, things are looking positive in the Champions League, topping our group by some distance in a group that contained teams such as Napoli, Club Brugge and PSV, securing a round of 16 tie against Marseille. But things aren't looking as rosy in the Premier League, as whilst we are in a Champions League spot, we are miles away, 11 points to be precise, away from top of the table Liverpool. And whilst the board are content with Carlo's achievements so far in the season, things could take a turn for the worse if we don't upturn our form in the Premier League. A big positive to take though is the performances of this man, Conrad Laimer. In his first 6 months at the club, he's already secured 7 goals and 8 assists in just 28 appearances. But it's the usual suspects of Moise Kean, now up to an 89 rated with 16 goals, and Gonzalo Plata now up to 87 with 13 goals and 10 assists. But with not enough money in the transfer budget to try and make some significant improvements to our starting 11, Carlo's got to just hope and pray that this team can get the job done all by themselves. But one man who's been no help whatsoever is central attacking midfielder Brenden Aaronson. Since the arrival of Angel Gomez, he's lost his place in the starting 11 and clearly hasn't had the growth or development that would have been expected of him. And with him submitting a transfer request due to a lack of game time and Arsenal coming in with a £24.5 million offer for him, the former Leeds midfielder will not be featuring for us in Season 5 as Carlo Ancelotti bids a goodbye to him. But as we reach the end of Season 4, judging by the thumbs down from the board, it's Carlo Ancelotti who might be bidding a goodbye to the Evertonians come the end of the season. A disappointing early exit in the FA Cup to Blackburn Rovers, followed up by a semi-final loss to Juventus in the Champions League, and finishing a whopping 13 points behind league winners Liverpool in the Premier League, means that the board are not entirely happy with Carlo Ancelotti's performance. However, with Ancelotti securing Champions League football yet again for the second season in a row, and with him deciding to hang up his managerial suit at the end of next season, the board have decided to keep him on for one more year in the hope that he can finally achieve both domestic and European glory at Everton Football Club. As we head into Ancelotti's 5th and final season at the club, a real push is needed from the fans, the board and the players alike if we want to try and break the glass ceiling of 4th place in the Premier League. And with £188 million to spend, the board are giving Carlo all the tools he needs to try and secure domestic and European success. With our attacking front three of Gonzalo Plata, Moise Kean and also Alan Velasco getting a combined 73 goals in all competitions last season, it's in defence that perhaps Carlo needs to look to strengthen this season. With a 76 rated Nathan Patterson and an 83 rated Tarek Lamptey, the only 2 right backs at the club, clearly it is right back that is potentially the weak link in the back 4. But with Ancelotti keen to keep Everton's attacking prowess going, and with him identifying a man who's in the last year of his contract so he can get a decent deal for him, he's decided to welcome a high-flying, pacey, exciting right wing-back as he welcomes the now 25-year-old Ivorian Wilfried Singo for £38.3 million. With the man he's replacing in Nathan Patterson going the other way to Villarreal for £7 million. With Corentin Tolisso only featuring once in the FA Cup last season, Carlo Ancelotti has decided not to renew his contract and he departs the club on a free transfer. It means we've got a gaping hole in the centre of our midfield that we need to fill. Conor Gallagher left Chelsea a few seasons ago in FIFA to join PSG, but ever since moving to the French capital, he's found himself on the fringes of the starting 11 of the French Giants. And now, just like many players before him that Carlo Ancelotti has signed, he is desperate for a return back to the Premier League, and the Italian icon is more than happy to welcome him with open arms as Everton Football Club secure a deal for the English central midfielder for £56 million. With Brenden Aaronson departing the club at the back end of last season, it means that one final signing is needed in central attacking midfield to try and compete with this man Angel Gomez. And with £111 million left in the budget, it means once again that Carlo Ancelotti is going to go big and bring in a potential superstar in waiting, currently plying his trade at Borussia Dortmund on FIFA. It is Spanish wonder kid Oyan Sanset to finally make his long-awaited move to the Premier League as he joins in a deal from Dortmund for £73.1 million. And with those 3 transfers now all nicely wrapped up, the starting 11 looking in tip-top shape and the bench looking stronger than it ever has going into a new season, for one last time, can Carlo Ancelotti do the unthinkable and achieve domestic and European glory for Everton Football Club. And as we fast forward to midway through the season, those dreams still look like they are far away from becoming a reality. Yes, Everton have got through to the round of 16 of the Champions League, coming in second in their group stage, but a tie against Real Madrid puts them in a really tricky position to progress. And with 20 games played and 6 points behind first place Manchester City, it's looking increasingly unlikely that Everton are going to be able to win the Premier League. And with only £17 million left in the budget, these last 6 months are going to require a massive push from the Everton players to try and help Carlo Ancelotti end his career with a success. But despite lifting the Carabao Cup for the second time in this rebuild, beating Manchester City 2-1 in the final, and despite having two of the top assist makers in the Premier League with Gomez and Velasco respectively, a knockout in the Champions League round of 16 at the hands of Real Madrid, and a second place finish in the Premier League, just 2 points off of Arsenal in first, proved to be not enough for Carlo Ancelotti. And instead of ending his career with a trophy, he ends it with the sack from Everton Football Club. A sustained period of success and constant improvement under his leadership proved to be not enough for the board, and Carlo Ancelotti ends his illustrious football career with the sack from Everton Football Club. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again next time.